In Clarke City, a quiet and charming town, the monotony of everyday life is suddenly shattered by a series of unsettling events that begin to echo through the cobblestone streets and Victorian houses. Mysterious letters, written in meticulous handwriting and stealthily delivered under the veil of night, predict disasters with chilling accuracy. Each envelope left at a resident's door details future calamities, from devastating fires to tragic accidents, profoundly shaking the community. These inexplicable occurrences plunge Clarke City into a state of alert and fascination. The residents, once enjoying a peaceful and predictable existence, now find themselves caught up in speculation and fear, questioning not only the authenticity of the predictions but also their possible origins. Who could know the secrets of the future so well? And, more alarmingly, why would they choose to reveal these dark events? The search for answers begins to uncover hidden layers of the town, revealing that Clarke City may be more enigmatic and historic than its inhabitants ever imagined. This phenomenon places the community in a state of alert and intrigue, as everyone wonders who is behind these grim predictions and why. Daniel Mercer, a skeptical journalist known for his ability to unravel mysteries, finds one of these letters on a rainy morning. The prediction is specific. A large fire will devastate the historic Clarke Pier the following Monday at noon. Initially disbelieving, Daniel's curiosity is piqued when the fire occurs exactly as predicted. The shocking revelation that the letter's prediction had come true deeply unsettled Daniel. He had always prided himself on his skepticism, using logic and reasoning to demystify urban legends and supernatural tales. Now, however, he was faced with a phenomenon that challenged his rational understanding. Bewildered and driven by a new sense of urgency, Daniel decided he needed to investigate further. He began to trace the origin of the letter, searching for any clues that could explain how someone might have prior knowledge of such a catastrophic event and, crucially, why someone would choose to alert him. This mystery led him down a path that intersected with the town's ancient archives, conversations with local historians, and a detailed analysis of the circumstances surrounding each incident predicted in the mysterious letters. Shaken by the accuracy of the letter, Daniel embarks on an investigation to uncover the origins of these predictions. He joins Lisa, a colleague who also received a sinister letter about an accident threatening her brother. Together, they begin exploring the history of the town, seeking connections between the victims of the letters and past events. As Daniel and Lisa delved into the archives of the municipal library, they discovered that the letters were not a recent phenomenon. Forgotten records revealed that similar incidents had occurred several decades earlier, always at critical moments in the town's history. Each old letter they found contained predictions that were somehow linked to significant or tragic events, such as major fires, collapses of old buildings, and even mysterious disappearances that were never solved. This intriguing pattern suggested that someone with a deep knowledge of Clarke City's history was using this information to shape the present, perhaps as a warning or as a means to influence events. With this clue, Daniel and Lisa began compiling a list of all the letter recipients, tracing their family lines and personal histories in hopes of discovering a common link that could explain why they were chosen. This investigation led them to interviews with older residents and descendants of historical figures in the town, each conversation unraveling more about the social and historical fabric of Clarke City and how it was intricately tied to the mystery of the letters. Their quest took them to the municipal archive, where they found references to a 19th-century watchmaker known for his occult experiments. This man, Albert Wickett, was obsessed with finding patterns in time and believed that certain events could be predicted and even altered through specific rituals. In the municipal archive, a dusty, dimly lit room held the secrets of watchmaker Albert Wickett, an almost mythical figure in local history. The documents revealed that Wickett had transformed his workshop into a sort of alchemical laboratory, where he blended watchmaking techniques with esoteric studies. His notes, filled with astrological diagrams and Kabbalistic symbols, showed an obsession not only with measuring time but also with mastering it. Daniel and Lisa discovered letters exchanged between Wickett and various learned contemporaries, in which they discussed theories about the fluid nature of time and how certain temporal knots could be influenced by seemingly small events. Wickett believed that these points were critical in weaving destiny and that, if properly manipulated, They could alter the course of future events to prevent disasters or catalyze progress. This revelation not only provided a crucial clue about the function of the letters, but also about the potential motive behind them. A secular experiment that had extended far beyond the life of its creator. Delving deeper into Wicket's notes, Daniel and Lisa found mentions of an artifact called the Chronomicon, a device that Wicket believed was capable of manipulating the temporal knots mentioned in his letters. According to the records, the Chronomicon was a complex clockwork machine combined with mystical elements, which supposedly could control the flow of time if operated during certain astronomical alignments. These discoveries left Daniel and Lisa intrigued and concerned. It was evident that Wicket had advanced far in his experiments, perhaps even too far. They began to suspect that the letters could be a modern manifestation of Wicket's theories, possibly reactivated by someone who had discovered or inherited the Chronomicon. This new understanding led them to question not only the nature of the letters, but also the ethical and dangerous implications of such experiments with time. Motivated by the gravity of their findings, Daniel and Lisa decided to intensify their investigation to locate the Chronomicon. They knew that if the device truly existed and was in the wrong hands, the consequences could be catastrophic not only for Clarke City, but potentially on a much broader scale. They began to map out the locations mentioned in Wicket's notes, which frequently referenced specific points in the city where he conducted his experiments. Among Wicket's papers, they found sketches of a prophetic clock, a device he constructed to predict and influence the future. Intrigued, Daniel and Lisa visited the local museum, where the clock was on display, only to discover that parts of the mechanism had been recently stolen. At the local museum, a stone building with large arches and windows that filtered sunlight in a way that created a mysterious and dark atmosphere, Daniel and Lisa came across the pedestal where the prophetic clock was supposed to be displayed. However, instead of the intricate device they expected to see, they found only a few solitary gears and an empty space covered in dust marks, clear evidence that significant parts of the clock had been removed. Frustrated, yet more determined than ever, they decided to investigate the theft, questioning the museum staff and reviewing the records of recent visitors. They discovered that the robbery had occurred on a night when the security cameras had mysteriously failed, leaving a span of several hours unmonitored. This suggested that the thief not only knew what they were looking for, but also had enough knowledge to manipulate the museum's security systems. With this new information, Daniel and Lisa expanded their investigation to include technology and security experts while continuing to track down any clues that could indicate who might be interested in reactivating the prophetic clock and why. Each clue led them deeper into a web of conspiracies and secrets that seemed to involve prominent figures in the community and perhaps even local authorities. With the help of an antique clock specialist, they learned that the clock could, theoretically, be used to manipulate events if completed with its original components. This led them to a race against time to find out who was trying to reconstruct the prophetic clock and for what purpose. Daniel and Lisa met with the antique clock specialist, Dr. Harold Finch, in his workshop filled with ancient mechanisms and specialized tools. Dr. Finch, a gray-haired man with a keen gaze, carefully studied the sketches and notes that Daniel and Lisa brought. He explained that Wicket's prophetic clock was not just an artifact for measuring time, but a machine designed to interact with temporal forces in an almost magical way, potentially altering the course of future events. Dr. Finch emphasized the critical importance of each component of the clock, stressing that the integrity and exact configuration were essential for its safe and effective operation. With missing components, the clock could cause more harm than good, distorting time in unpredictable and potentially dangerous ways. Armed with this new understanding, Daniel and Lisa realized that the task of finding the stolen components and preventing the clock from being reactivated had become an urgent mission, not only to protect the present, but also to preserve the future timeline from catastrophic manipulations. Determined, they started tracing the steps of the stolen components, scouring antique markets, online auctions, and even clandestine circles of collectors of mystical artifacts. Each step in this race against time took them deeper into the underworld of ancient relics, where the line between legal and illicit often proved to be blurred. The investigations intensified as new letters continued to arrive, each anticipating tragedies that were beginning to come true, heightening the panic in the city. Daniel and Lisa interviewed the families of the victims, trying to find a common motive or pattern in the sender's choices. As Daniel and Lisa delved into the personal stories of the victims affected by the letters, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. Many of the affected families shared a distant connection to the ancient history of the city, some tracing back generations to the times when the watchmaker wicket was active. This suggested that the sender's choices were not random but meticulously calculated to affect those with deep roots in the community. This discovery led Daniel and Lisa to investigate more about the historical impact of the families in the city. They found that many of them had ancestors who were key figures during critical periods of the city, including the time when the pact with time was initially forged. This understanding led them to consider that the sender of the letters might be attempting to rectify or retaliate against historical injustices, using the clock to alter events in a way that would balance the accounts of the past with the present. As Daniel and Lisa's investigation deepened, they began to understand the true motivations behind the revival of the prophetic clock. The mysterious sender of the letters, who they later discovered was a direct descendant of Albert Wicket, was not merely trying to influence random events. He was attempting to correct past mistakes that, according to him, had been caused or exacerbated by the actions of his ancestors. He believed that by adjusting certain events, he could restore a moral and ethical balance that had been lost over the centuries. Daniel and Lisa, with the help of experts in historical ethics and temporal manipulation, assembled a task force to confront Wicket's descendant. On a rainy night, under the shadow of the city's ancient clock tower, which still resonated with echoes of the past, they met. After an intense dialogue about the implications of his actions, the man finally understood that, although his intentions were noble, manipulating time was dangerous and unpredictable. He agreed to deactivate the prophetic clock and hand over the Chronomicon and other associated artifacts for safekeeping. With the clock deactivated, the mysterious letters stopped arriving, and Clarke City slowly returned to normalcy. The residents, once haunted by fear and uncertainty, began to find peace. Daniel and Lisa, marked by the experience, continued to document the history, ensuring that the lessons learned would not be lost to future generations. Daniel wrote a series of detailed articles about the case, which not only cleared some stains from the city's history but also opened a dialogue about the ethics of interfering with time. Lisa, for her part, produced a documentary capturing not only the dark beauty of Clarke City, but also the complexity of the moral issues involved in the story they had lived. In the end, as the city gazed at the now silent ancient clock, a new chapter began. A chapter of acknowledgement and respect for the past, but with eyes turned toward the future, knowing that some forces, especially those that weave the fabric of time, are better left untouched. If this journey through time and mystery captured your imagination, don't forget to like and share this video. Subscribe to the channel for more enigmatic adventures and surprising discoveries. Do you believe that the past should be corrected, or should we accept history as it is? Leave your opinion in the comments below and be part of this fascinating discussion. Until our next mysterious encounter, keep your eyes open and remember to never ignore an anonymous letter.